Hello students. By now we have learnt about the introduction of this chapter. We have talked about what is heredity and what is variations, the importance of variations, and we have also talked about some of the rules of the inheritance. Now we have been discussing these concepts, but at the beginning it was all started by a person, and he was none other than Gregor Johann Mendel, and he is regarded as the father of genetics. So let us first understand what genetics refer to. So when we talk about genetics, it's a branch of biology where we talk about the inheritance and variations in simple terms, right? Inheritance and variations. Now in here we also talk about the gene, right, and the chromosomes, because we talk about the inheritance pattern, we need to talk about the gene and the chromosome or the genetic material, how they behave, how they're going to act, right, what influence they have on the expression of the characters. So all of these we talk in terms of the genetics. Now he was the one who proposed the law of inheritance, right? There were three laws, and these laws of inheritance was proposed by him, and that is what is the basis of the current genetics that we talk about. So what are the three laws? The three laws were the law of segregation, the law of dominance, and law of the independent assortment. Now remember, these three are the laws of inheritance, and it was proposed based on the work of Mendel, and these we are going to learn in detail based on the standard of class 10th with the help of something called the monohybrid and the dihybrid cross. So the monohybrid and dihybrid cross that we will learn in the future videos will enable us to understand what these law means, and we will also tell that some of these laws are actually universal, some of these are not. We will talk about that also in the future video. For now, you just understand that these are the laws of inheritance given by Mendel when he worked with the garden pea or the Pisum sativum. That is a scientific name. And he was not a scientist, he didn't have a lab, he was in a monastery, and while growing the pea plant he got curious, and he started keeping a count of the different traits that he observed in the garden pea. Now he actually studied the inheritance pattern of seven different contrasting characters in garden pea. Now what are these contrasting characters, we will talk just after this, but there were seven specific characters that were having opposite nature, and these seven pairs of contrasting characters were studied by Mendel. And something that Mendel did different compared to other scientists at that point of time, which led to the success of his work, was the use of mathematics and statistics. Now, dear students, you have to understand that at that point of time, there was no biologists or botanists that were using mathematics in the study of biology. At that point of time, when Mendel used mathematics and statistics to solve biological problems, many of the scientists did not agree to his methods. And this is one of the reasons that his work remained unrecognized for a really long period of time. But the use of mathematics and statistics is the key to his success in proposing the law of inheritance and understanding the inheritance pattern of some of the characters and traits. Remember, dear students, that point of time nobody knew what gene were, and there was the use of the term factors, right? Mendel had used the term factor. He didn't know, or nobody knew at that point of time, what were chromosomes or what were the genes. So there was a term called factors, and these factors later on turn out to be nothing but the gene. Now question is, why did he choose the pea plant? As you can see here, you have learned about Fabaceae family in class 11th, and you have learned about the vegetative and the reproductive or the flowering characters in that class. So the reasons, one of the reasons for Mendel to choose the pea plant was easy cultivation. See, when we work with any particular plant, we would always like it to be very easy to cultivate, very easy to manage. It should not take us a lot of time and effort for even to grow them. So at that point of time, Mendel chose a plant which is going to be easy to cultivate, easy to manage. The second thing was, he observed that this plant had bisexual flower. Right. So what is the advantage of bisexual flower? Now when you have bisexual flower, it is easy for a scientist, for a person to allow controlled pollination, right? So with the help of bisexual flower, controlled pollination was easy, and because they were bisexual flower, the self pollination was also possible. I will tell you why these two processes are important in the study, because Mendel had used both the controlled pollination process and the self pollination process to come to the conclusion. Now, the other reason was it has a short lifespan, about few weeks. Okay. Now, the benefit with a short lifespan is we can learn about the inheritance pattern of many generations in a shorter span of time. If a plant is going to take years and years for a single generation, then we have to wait those many years to understand what is going to happen in a single generation. But when we talk about the inheritance pattern, we need to make sure that we are able to understand and learn about more than one generation. It has to be several generations, and the shorter the lifespan, the faster we can actually come to the conclusion of actually what's happening generation after generation. So short lifespan is a key when we select a plant for genetic study. And here Mendel had chosen the pea plant which had few weeks of lifespan. Now, another reason was a single cross, single pollination process and the fertilization process would lead to the production of large number of seeds, that is large number of progeny. So when we have large number of seeds, when we come at a conclusion, our conclusion will be statistically correct. See, when we get a single seed and we grow them, the plant can be, for example, tall or dwarf. Now in that point of time, we cannot say that all the plants that are going to be produced at this particular stage is going to be tall or it can be dwarf. But you have, let's say, 100 seeds, and out of 100 seeds, 75 seeds are actually tall and 25 seeds are, let's say, dwarf. Then you can say that there is a majority of the chances of the plant becoming tall. So when you have large number of seeds, the study and the conclusion that you make on based on that is going to be more statistically correct. So again, this is a key reasons for choosing the pea plant. Now, once we get the seeds, it should not happen. Once you get the hybrid, it should not happen. They are not fertile, right? To continue the research, to continue the understanding of what's going on, they must be fertile. And last but not the least, there were number of observable contrasting character. These contrasting characters were one of the marker for Mendel to segregate and separate and study what's going on and group them into different categories based on the traits. Now, these traits must be easily observable. It should not be very difficult for the observation to be made. So it was actually easy, and it was observable contrasting characters, again, which was a reason for his success in the study of the pea plant for the inheritance pattern of certain traits. So let us now talk about what these contrasting characters are and what were the 7 characters. So when we talk about contrasting characters, we need to understand these are extreme traits, extreme features, we can say, right? Extreme features or extreme traits. If not extreme, we can say it is opposite features or opposite traits. For example, just I was saying that the plant, right, height can be, let's say, the tall, or the opposite of the tall is going to be dwarf, right? Similarly, when we talk about the let's say the seed color, another trait, another character, it can be yellow or it can be green. So the point is there were opposite features or traits. For example, there was tall and there was dwarf, and there was nothing intermediate about it, right? So there was no intermediate trait. So the plant can be tall or the plant can be dwarf. Similarly, the plant can have yellow colored seed or the plant can have green colored seed. Let's say there was no medium height plant, or there was no plant that was, let's say, slightly less yellow or slightly less green or darker green seeds, yellow or green seeds. Now because of that, we refer these traits to be contrasting traits, or these are the contrasting characters we call it. Now there were 7 of these as we are talking about, and these 7s are here as you can see. So the first character, as you can see, it is the sheet shape, right? When we talk about sheet shape, the traits could be round or wrinkled. So what does it mean? That the seed shape in the pea plant can be either round or can be wrinkled. These are the two different expression of a single trait, and that's why these are called the two traits. Now the seed color can be yellow or can be green. The flower color can be violet or can be white. The pod shape, I'll just tell you what's the difference between the pod and the seed, right? Many people have confusion in there. So it can be full or it can be constrictor. As you can see, slight difference here, it is completely smooth, but here there is some sort of undulation is there, some sort of wavy nature is there. Now there is going to be pod color. Pod color can be green or pod color can be yellow. Now you have a flower position difference. The flower position can be in the axile. Axile means in the sides, not at the terminal position, and here it can be on the terminal. So it can be axile or it can be terminal. The stem height, which we are typically referred to as the seed height, that can be tall or it can be dwarf. So these were the 7 traits that Mendel had actually used. So these represents the pod. Okay, that is nothing but the covering of the seed. Okay, and inside that we are going to have the seeds. Okay, these are the seeds. So pod is nothing but the covering of the seeds. Typically when we take the pea and we remove the seed, we actually discard the pod. So that's the difference between the pod and the seed. Alright then, this is what you have to understand about Mendel, who he was, what he proposed, why he is regarded as the father of genetics, right? Why did he choose the pea plant for his work or for his experiments, and what were the 7 pairs of contrasting characters that were used by Mendel for his studies to come to the conclusion to propose the 3 laws of inheritance.